Before I say anything else, I need you to know something. You did not click on this video by accident. Somewhere in you tonight, a question has been sitting quietly, refusing to leave. What is he really thinking about me? And I want you to trust that instinct, because by the end of this, you are going to have your answer, and it is going to explain almost everything that has felt confusing about this connection up until now. Hey loves, welcome back to Heart Love Messages. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so glad you found this exact video at this exact moment, because timing like that is never really an accident. This exact moment, I'm bringing through a message from your person, not a generic one, not something that could apply to anyone. I'm going to walk you through exactly how they see you, what they've been holding back, and this is the part that matters most, why they've been holding it back. Let's get into it. You are someone who needs the truth, not the pretty version of it. If this message found you tonight, I already know something about you before we go any further. You are not the type of woman who wants to be handled gently with half information. You would rather have the full, unfiltered truth, even if it stings, than live inside a comfortable guess. That's rare. Most people want to be protected from reality. You want access to it. You want to be the one who decides what you do with the facts, not someone else deciding for you what you're ready to hear. And that matters right now, because your person knows this about you. On some level, they already sense that you're not someone who can be managed with half-truths and vague answers forever, which means what's coming is going to be real. So let's talk about why it hasn't come yet. He is not confusing. He is guarded, and there's a difference. I want to gently correct something you may have been telling yourself. You might have started to believe this man is just naturally mysterious, naturally hard to read, naturally private, and maybe some of that is true. But underneath the mystery, I'm picking up something much more specific. This is a person who has decided somewhere along the way that you cannot be fully let in yet. Not because he doesn't trust you as a person, but because he doesn't yet trust the situation enough to hand you all of it. There's a gap between what he tells you and what he actually feels, and that gap isn't empty, it's full. It's full of things he thinks about at night that never make it into a text message. Full of a version of himself he keeps carefully out of view. And here's the twist. Instead of finding that frustrating, some part of you has actually been drawn to it. The distance has its own kind of pull. You've caught yourself wondering what's underneath, wanting to know the parts of him that don't show up on the surface. That curiosity isn't weakness. It's your intuition, correctly sensing that there's more here worth waiting for. You wouldn't understand isn't an insult, it's a confession. Here's the deeper layer, and I want you to really sit with this one. If there's a part of you that feels like he's holding something back, specifically about you, about how he sees the two of you together, you're not imagining that. But it's not because he thinks less of you. It's because in his mind, what he actually feels is so much bigger than what he's been showing you that he's genuinely unsure you'd believe it if he said it out loud. Think about the people you know who go quiet, who listen more than they speak, who seem calm and unreadable on the outside. Very often, that calm exterior is doing a lot of work to contain something loud underneath. He listens to you closely, more closely than you probably realize, but when it's his turn to speak, the words don't come as easily, not because there's nothing there, because there's too much there, and he hasn't figured out yet how to say it without it sounding bigger than he thinks you're ready for. Your presence has already changed something for him, whether he's said it or not. I want to tell you about a woman I read for a few months back. I'll call her Renata, because that's close enough to her story without giving away who she is. Renata came to me convinced that the man she was seeing simply wasn't that invested. He was polite, warm even, but distant in this way that made her constantly second-guess where she stood. What came through for her, and what I'm picking up for you too, is this. Sometimes a person's behavior lags behind their feelings. He may have already recognized, somewhere private, that you're not a casual presence in his life. That recognition can be unsettling for someone who wasn't expecting it. You may have shown up in his life at a moment when he wasn't looking for anyone, and instead of that making you less significant, it's actually part of why he's being so careful. People don't get careful about things that don't matter to them. They get careful about the things they're afraid of losing before they've even properly had them. For Renata, it took another 2 months before the man she was seeing finally said out loud what she'd already sensed for weeks, that he'd been scared of how quickly he'd started to care. When he finally said it, it didn't feel sudden to her. It felt like confirmation of something her intuition had been trying to tell her the whole time. There may be something ending in his life that has nothing to do with you. Here's something else I want to gently bring forward because I think it explains the pieces of this puzzle you may not have considered. Sometimes a person becomes guarded not because of what's happening in the connection, but because of what's happening around it. There could be a chapter closing in his life right now, something unrelated to you that he's still working through, tying up, or simply trying to keep separate from this new thing that's forming with you. That's not him keeping you at arm's length because you don't matter. It's him trying to protect something new and still forming from the mess of something old that hasn't fully resolved yet. If that resonates, it might explain why he seems present with you one moment and slightly elsewhere the next. It's not inconsistency about you. It's him standing at the edge of one thing ending and another thing beginning, and trying to walk that line carefully instead of dragging one into the other. And your energy is already reaching him, even in the silence. Here's what I want to leave you with tonight. Even in the moments where it feels like nothing is happening, where the silence between you two stretches longer than you like, I don't believe that silence is empty. I think you are already on his mind more than his behavior lets on. I think there is a version of this conversation happening in his head over and over, where he tells you everything and he just hasn't found the right moment or the right courage to bring that version out into the open yet. That moment is coming. Not because I'm promising you a fairy tale timeline, but because guarded people don't stay guarded forever with someone who keeps showing up as steadily and honestly as you have. At some point, holding it in becomes harder than letting it out. And when that shift happens for him, you are going to know because the distance that's been sitting between you is going to close, and what's underneath it is going to be more than worth the wait. If this message found you tonight, trust that it found you for a reason. Let me know in the comments what part of this resonated the most, and if you felt this reading in your bones, go ahead and hit that like button on your way out. If you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss what comes through next. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I'll see you in the next one.